My lonely soul as I lay me down to sleep. I can't breathe. Tell me why the blood.
Hey everybody, I'm Monty, and Channel 5 is reporting that the original names for the beloved cartoon Tom and Jerry were actually Jasper and Jinx way back in the day.
This is Toddy reporting from Channel 5 that 76% of historically Black college HBCUs, 76% are African Americans, Black folk, right? That other 24% is made 11% Caucasian, 8% Latino, and the other 6% is made up by our Pacific Islanders, Asian, and Hawaiian students.
Interesting. I'm gonna say something about that too. We're gonna come back to that in a second.
Hello, this is Buck, and Channel 5 is reporting that the average number of licks to finish a scoop of ice cream is 50.
Oh, nice. Good pull, Buck. I like that one. I like that one. Real quick, Toddy, your fact on HBCUs, I saw that a couple years ago because I watched on ESPN. It was the preliminary to the College World Series in baseball. And one of the HBCUs was in it. And looking on that baseball field, I didn't see a lot of brothers. And I kept saying, I can't remember who it was, but it was like Florida A&M or something. And there was a lot of like Latinos. And I was like, is that real? Can they be on the team? Like, what's going on? And I didn't even know that. I didn't know other races went to HBCUs, but that was probably like 8 or 9 years ago, but that hooked me up on that. Guys, we're back, another episode on Channel 5. Got a hot topic to talk about in the news right now. I got an esteemed panel with me. Some brothers that know, and brothers is in the know and can definitely talk about it as well. Mr. Todd Webb is back again on the show. How you doing, sir?
All's good.
Good. And of course, then we also have, it's been on previous shows. This might be his first Channel 5 in a while, I think, or maybe of the new Channel 5. My man Buck, Charles Buckner is here as well. How you doing, man?
Monty, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we want to get into a topic today that's, we've kind of hit on this before with a different HBCU. And just want to say, of course, much love for HBCUs, of course. Shout out to all of those. I think there's almost 100 HBCUs in the country. I think most of which are, I think I saw a number, most of which, of course, are in the South, but almost 100, I think. So represent, love them all. I love Hillman, wasn't even a real HBCU. Shout out to Hillman.
Shout out to Hillman. Yes, sir.
College.
So what we saw athletically in the news in the last couple of years, of course, Deion Sanders took a job at Jackson State. It was big news. Had no previous head coaching experience, but Deion took the job, and with Deion comes a lot of flash, a lot of attention, and that's what he brought. But he didn't just bring flash and attention, he brought winning, and he really turned that program around, had some amazing success. He has left and took a job at the University of Colorado, which was was a big story for different reasons. We hit on that. Now, as that transpired, Bethune Cookman is another HBCU, and they announced in December that they were going to hire Ed Reed. For those who don't know, Ed Reed is a Hall of Fame player from the Baltimore Ravens, played at the University of Miami, is a legendary player, one of the greatest safeties of all time. I mean, very decorated, Super Bowl winner, amazing player. He had a brief coaching stint as an assistant with the Buffalo Bills. He was a consultant and a coordinator with his alma mater at the University of Miami, and was going to be first-time head coach as well as Deion was at Jackson State. But then there kind of was some disconnect. I read an article where a reporter says that usually when there's an announcement like that, there's usually a press conference with the coach. And at the time they were like, well, we're still working on some things with Ed, so we'll get back to you next week. He said he tried next week, still didn't hear anything. He's kind of a little unusual with that. And there seemed to kind of be a disconnect. And then Ed Reed started to kind of put some things on social media about the situation there that he did not like, the conditions that he did not like. And it really spiraled from there to the point that they are now parting ways. and Ed Reed will not be the coach. And this has been a huge story now. So I'll start with my panel. I'll start with you, Todd. What do you feel in terms of this whole story, how it kind of arced, and we're now at the point where Ed Reed is not going to be the coach? Just overall in general, we'll get to the specifics, but just your feeling, just like, wow, thought we had another big name, now we don't.
The shout out also, let me say this, a shout out to HBCUs as well. I graduated from, Wilberforce.
That's right. You've
historically Black college. So so this story kind of like, I just in a strange way, kind of like I connect with it. Though I didn't play on the football team at Wilberforce, but I actually connected with it in a different way. Disappointment, man. I'm just extremely disappointed in how it all unfolded, and that it's taken on a life of its own right now. And to me, it's trending in the negative fears, because, I just grew up, and I'm just going to be true. I grew up where you don't air your dirty laundry in public, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you got some, some disagreements at the house, whatever, you don't go to school and be telling, well, my mom and dad did A, B, C, and D, right? Because then next thing you know, CPS is going to be knocking on the door, right? This is going to bring a negative, a negative look to the house. So it's some disappointment, right? I think it's it's a lose-lose situation.
Most definitely. Buck, you of course have been a recruiter for colleges throughout your career, and still work with colleges now, and getting young people in, working in that college sector. Just your overall thoughts on the arc of this story. What did you feel about it?
I honestly feel really bad that any higher education institution doesn't want negative publicity. But when it comes to our HBCUs, in the light of how they're viewed in comparing PWIs or predominantly white institutions, I was just like, wow, what in the world is going on? Is it a disagreement between the direction that he wants to take the program, or is it one of those situations where, because of how things have become aired and because of how things have become public on social media, is the administration now trying to save face and hide the fact that there's some things that are out of order?
Yeah, that's where it is kind of a he said, they said situation. So
yes, sir.
Let's get into the nitty gritty of it now, and understand something. This isn't like the first time a coach didn't take a job or was offered a job. It happens in schools, but the specifics of this are a little more, just kind of a little more odd. Now, and the thing about it, like I said, Ed Reed went to the University of Miami. He's beloved, and Bethune Cookman is in Florida. So he's, he wasn't born in Florida, but he's kind of a Florida boy. But
Right.
Ed Reed started to talk about some things where like the conditions were not good, kind of run down, things that he didn't like. And kind of like what Todd said, I'm not a big air your dirty laundry out, on social media, even though in 2023, that is what happens. This is just the social media age. Everything gets out there. I'll say this, I wish that it might've been handled a little better from Ed's perspective. I'm not saying he didn't have a right to have a grievance, because if what he's saying is true, there were just some totally unacceptable conditions for a college. And when you're bringing in a person like Ed Reed, you need to kind of know that. And this is actually some things that Deion Sanders talked about as well. So let's get to the nitty gritty of it in terms of from Ed's perspective. First of all, let's take it from there. I'll start with you, Buck. Do you feel like Ed had a point, even if it was maybe not the best tact, or do you feel like he really should have just not even said nothing?
I actually agree that he does have some valid points in the conditions of which these students are being asked to be a part of that campus community. Yeah, you can say, okay, but the way he went about addressing his concerns or his dismay or his anger or disappointment may not have been the best, but at the end of the day, if you are, scripture say, what you do in the dark gonna come to the light. You know, what you speak in secret is gonna be proclaimed on the rooftop.
Right.
So there are some things that with his execution, you could have an issue with. But my whole point and my premise after working in higher ed for the last 20 plus years is, listen, are these the best conditions for the students?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, what is administration doing to address these needs, concerns, and issues? So I am understanding where Ed Reed is coming from, because that's passion that I love these kids and I want to make sure they have the best experience on the college campus.
Mm-hmm.
When you come from that place, you're going to take steps to make sure things are rectified and things are corrected. Now, the status quo will not ever agree with that. Even if you, let's just say, other side of the coin, what if he called a meeting and said, I want to address these issues? What would get done?
Yeah.
Hypothetically, I'm just saying.
Right.
What are they going to do about it? Who they going to call? Because number one, you don't know how long, if what he's saying is true, you don't know how long that's been going on.
Right. Yeah.
Number three, it's not like y'all don't know this is going on.
Right.
I mean, come on now.
But that's, and I was going to get to that, is just the fact that, you know, is Ed Reed coming in looking at some stuff like what's up, and they've been like, well, this is just how it is, you know. That's a key point. Toddy, let me get your thoughts on that.
No, I concur with what Buck said, but you got to do a better job, Ed Reed, at your execution. I see your heart was in the right place, but when you go on social media, get this, before you are actually have signed the contract stating that I am the head coach of Bethune Cookman's football team, you can't go on social media and then start blasting, not even your, because you're not employed until you sign that contract.
Right.
So not simply officially your employer, your potential employer, right? You can't put them on blast and start running down the universities, all their indiscretions, right? You can't, because guess what? So what's going to happen is what happened. Right. You know, we're going to rescind our offer, right? And like the president said, President Drake said, he said it just wasn't a good fit. And you just proved to us it's not a good fit. And I understand Ed Reed's passion, but you got to be a little more tactful about how, because you can do more good for the school inside the organization than you can outside, right? Because to me, I might be speaking too soon because I don't know all the facts, but it's almost like you're doing more damage right now than you are good. Because now, like you said, Buck said, you don't know what was lined up and what was going to happen in 2023 moving forward, right? They're just coming out of a Hurricane Ivan. They just suffered, a whole lot of water damage and a whole lot of damage, based on that. Maybe they were waiting for some funding. Maybe they were waiting for FEMA, right? I read somewhere that FEMA hadn't fulfilled their obligation in terms of funding that was going to come their way. And he jumped the gun and started saying, they didn't have a golf cart my golf cart was dirty, my office was dirty. Well, you putting the cart before the horse. It ain't your office and your golf course until you become an employee. Now I ain't I'm not bashing Ed Reed because I like his passion. I like his energy, right? I've always had, even as a player, that Ravens defense was loaded. It had 3, maybe 4 Hall of Famers on that with Deion Sanders, with your boy
Ray Lewis,
Ray Lewis, and Ed Reed. Oh my gosh! Because remember that team did not have, and probably won't have, a Hall of Fame quarterback.
No,
that's right.
That defense carried that team, right?
That's right.
And all those guys, in their own right, are very passionate about what they believe and how they present themselves. That's right. I think Ed Reed kind of got caught up in the Deion Sanders syndrome, right? Deion Sanders, you said earlier, Deion Sanders is flashy, right? He's prime time. Deion Sanders is a marketing machine, right? He is a brand himself. And he probably Dion did this, and Dion did that, and Dion made a request for this, and Dion, you ain't there yet, Ed.
True.
Well,
You know,
let me say something to that, because I remember the story. First of all, I agree with both you all, and I think both sides, the Bethune Cookman side and the Ed Reed side, should have maybe vetted each other a little bit better.
yeah, there you go.
No. And then, and like you say, I think the tact for Ed is, Ed, once you sign the papers, then you can swing the big stick, but you can't yet, and you putting them in a hard position because now you're talking about it. And, really what employer would just let a prospective employee say all that and then still hire you? But I'll tell you what, I remember seeing way back, he was still playing. And Ed Reed came in the locker room in the Ravens, and the locker room was a messy, and Ed Reed was not having it. He was like, come on, fellas. He's like, this is a reflection of who we are. He's like, wow, throwing stuff around. I mean, I wish I could find that clip right now. He let him have it even then. And I think that's just who he is. And I think he, respects what Dion, because he mentioned, he's like, man, Dion was right. He was saying it. I think he's just really being himself. That's just who he is. Ed's probably just coming in like, y'all got to at least,
that's
give
right.
me something just to motivate these kids. He's like, how am I gonna talk to these kids? And we got stuff falling apart, messy. But you really got to sign that first, and then, because I feel like he might have been trying to already get things done, hadn't been signed yet, and maybe the administration like, well, just hold on a minute, let's get things together. So probably should have been better vetted on each side.
Yeah. So shame on the university, right? For, like you said, not doing their due diligence, right? And vetting who Ed Reed is, right? And what his past is, and his path to where he's become, a Hall of Fame Defensive Player of the Year in 2004, right? Hall of Famer, Super Bowl championship winner, right? But you need to vet more than them stats and find out what kind of man he is. Well, if he's all about, like you said, he likes order and he likes things a certain way, right? Well, I know he's gonna come into a situation where we ain't already got, it's like having company, right? You invite a company over, you got to clean up. Well, company is coming. But I heard that he didn't even have permission to be on campus, to be filming and doing all this. So, and I'm not taking up for Bethune Cookman, but like I said, because shame on them for not doing their homework. And then likewise, shame on Ed Reed for not doing his homework, right?
It's both ways.
Right. So in professional football, when the offense is holding on offense on the play, offensive line, and then in the defense commits a PI, pass interference, they call that an offsetting penalty, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you replay it down, right? So this is an offsetting penalty on both sides, right? For not doing their due diligence on both sides. And I don't know if Bethune Cookman thought, okay, we get a big name athlete, let's just bring him in, right? Or, let's just
see. That's what so Buck, talking to students and trying to get prospective students in for your university. You know what I mean? What's kind of like the pitch? Not saying that this is the Bethune Cookman pitch to Ed Reed, but what is the pitch that you're trying to bring in and recruit even these young minds and these people? Like, what is kind of maybe the approach you would use to get the young people in? And do you think that applies when they're trying to get these coaches in?
I say yes, and the pitch is a little different. So when I train my staff to go out in the high schools and talk to students and talk to parents, what you call them prospects, because they haven't applied, they haven't gone through the process of becoming an admitted student, getting them ready for orientation. I tell them all the information we're going to give them. Talk about living on campus, housing, student organizations, fraternities and sororities, sports, athletic teams. We talk about campus jobs and where you're going to eat and all the activities, as well as the academic programs. The one thing I always tell them, package it as it's about best fit. Every school, think about it. There are this is a light number, but there are more than 5,000 colleges and universities that offer business administration as a degree program. Just using that as an example. So why is San Diego State better than Michigan State, than Nevada State, than Howard University, than Norfolk State, than North Carolina A&T.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just gonna look at major, location, and who's branded, then you got a lot of different variations. And a lot of admissions rolls on who's in the news, who is the hottest institution for programming, but a lot of it deals with Division I, the Big Five power conferences in sports, who's winning, right? So that's what you do with students. Now, when it comes to athletics, totally different ballgame, because athletics a lot of times help subsidize and underwrites the funding for the college or the university.
Yeah,
so
very much, especially football.
Exactly. And so after sitting on, just gonna be honest, after sitting on a lot of different search committees and leading search committees to hire directors and coordinators and associate directors and deans to work at a university, the one thing that we always do, part of the process, is if there's not a national search, when you vet your candidates by phone interview or Skype interview, you always bring them on campus. Because on paper, people can look great. When you interview them over the phone, sometimes they can hide their ability to connect and communicate effectively. But when you bring them on for a campus interview, you get a chance to really scan a person. When specifically they have to sit in front of different boards and deans and have questions fired at them. When you sit down at the candidate lunch, see, that kind of disarms people because they're nervous. I don't really want to eat. But if you start getting a person to answer questions about themselves, that's the golden ticket to open up someone.
And so that's
usually.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But that's what so I wonder, like, did y'all sit down and really talk somewhere, Bethune and Ed? Like, did y'all know? Because it seems like it was almost like a telephone, like, you want to do it? I want to do it, bet, announce it. It's such a disconnect. And to barely get this far. But Toddy, go ahead.
Buck broke it down real well in terms of, how you bring in the students, and then how you would bring in administrators, and how you would bring in the coaches, right? Because the three entities have to, be connected and married in a union compatibility, right? And it can't be an arranged marriage. It's got to be something that, I get to know you, right? I vetted you out, right? I've seen your history, right? Your history as a university. I went through and saw that you've been through 6 presidents in the last 10 years. Well, guess what? That raised a red flag to me, right? And I didn't say, okay, your student population is what, right? Because Ed Reed was complaining that, that they didn't have showers, right, for the athletes, right? They didn't have a practice field, right? Kids had to wash their own clothes, right? So when I'm hearing all that, my wheels is turning like, okay, is this an investment I want to make with my time and energy, right? Not to put them down or say that I want to go to a situation that's better, but I need to take that in consideration. And this is what I'm dealing with, right? Most HBCUs are underfunded, right?
Underfunded, correct.
Just 1%. Roland Martin did something, and he said that, just that 1% of alumni
that's right
in the area are giving back to their historical college that they graduated from. Just 1%, right? And then a lot of them are land grant. Did I say that right? Land bank rate, and then they get money from the state, and a lot of it is you mix that in with you mix that in with a Hurricane Ian, right? And I got to rebuild these facilities here. Well, all of a sudden, football,
it's not going to get done. Football is not the top priority.
And that's why I think, to use a football term, I think Bethune was maybe trying to throw a Hail Mary because we are a little down and we need a shakeup. And so they were maybe just shooting for the stars with Ed to begin with. But and to keep it fair, now, in the aftermath, there's been some protests at the school by the student body. Not just wanting Ed Reed back because they want Ed Reed back, but they're also voicing how some of the living conditions are not great. And please forgive me. I don't want to I'm not even going to say which school because I'm not for sure. But I remember this happened like 2 years ago at one of the HBCUs, the student body protested. I can't remember which one it was, so I don't want to just implicate, but it was a prominent HBCU, and they were talking about
Yes.
the living conditions there, and they're like, man, we got roaches and crazy stuff. Like, what's going on? And I don't want to just say it's just bad management, because again, it's a tight budget. And it's not
True.
what all these other ones have. So that kind of leads me to my last question. Where do we go from here? Because I heard a lot of people say, and fairly, like Deion Sanders and Ed Reed and Eddie George, they was lucky to even get this chance because they don't have head coaching experience. Nobody else would have hired them, which is true. But I feel like if you wanted to hire a guy without experience, an FCS school is where you would do that, not an FBS. Sure, University of Illinois, you know what I'm saying, or Kansas State or USC, they're not going to just hire a guy. But to me, where you go to like, William and Mary or, something like that, a school that's just, this is where you would try to do that to shake things up. And we saw in Jackson State, even with the ups and downs, Deion brought in money, he brought in recruits, he brought in recognition. So I'll start with you, Buck. Where do you feel like we go from here for the HBCUs that we love, that we're rooting for? Should they really just kind of maybe tamp it back down? I don't want to say stay in your lane, but maybe not go so big, and just maybe let's just work on trying to get it from the grassroots? Or should they try to shoot for the stars again?
That's a great question. I think they can't tap it down because of Deion.
Yeah.
Because what he was able to establish in 3 years there and what he exposed our HBCU student athletes and the universities to on a national scale, he was a catalyst.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being able to have fine dining for the first time when you just been eating fast food and I'm just gonna go to my little restaurant. Yeah, the little restaurant is good when you're on the time crunch, but when you actually get a chance to have a 7-course meal, I remember my first time going to Ruth's Chris. I thought you couldn't tell me nothing after that.
Right.
The first time I spent $100 and I was by myself, and it was great. So I say that as an example that I think where we have to go from here, working in higher education, my desire is that the administrators, the college presidents, all the board of regents would actually come together and say, you know what, we've made some strides, but there's some work we have to do at all of our institutions to be great. And what greatness looks like at, I'm just gonna call one out, Xavier University, greatness may look a little bit different at Morgan State University.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're on the same trajectory to make sure that whichever student enrolls on our campuses, they have everything that they need in their development academically, professionally, personally, and athletically to be ready for the next stage of life.
I like that.
But that takes people dropping their degrees, that takes people dropping their pride to come to the table to say, how do we help all of us win, right? And that's hard to do. Y'all know the melanated population of our society, Black folk, it's hard for us to do that. Come on now. But that's where I think we should go. But there's something I want to bring up if I could real quick. The coaching aspect is a little bit different because this is where my knee-jerk reaction was, I wondered did Ed Reed actually go and visit?
Right.
Before he said yes. Did he actually take time to walk through the facilities? Another thing, most new coaches that they're bringing in usually have an interview with the current students that are there. Even the captains, if not everybody, but their most, the highest scorers or the quarterback, they usually have an interview with the coaching candidates to see, is this a good fit? Kind of who they are. We've heard about them. And the reason they do that is that they want to try to gain a sense of who can be cohesive and galvanize the leadership role for this athletic team. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but generally they bring that coach in or that prospect to see our facilities. This is where we're at. This is how we feel that you can help us. So this is why we are offering you this opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know if that really happened with Bethune Cookman and Ed Reed. So that's where I'm like, oh, we missed some stuff here. But I'm sorry, but that's really my perspective.
It's hard to say.
No,
That's a great point. But go ahead, Toddy. What's your thoughts? Where are we at, and what do you feel?
Something was missed. But something was missed. I read somewhere that Deion Sanders, right, had, hey, Ed, we all set up, we all good. I'm leaving Jackson State. Hey, come on and fill, because they need a coach, right? Come fill my spot at Jackson State, because I'm going on to Colorado.
Okay.
Right. And I think had Ed, and I'm just, like I said, I'm speaking, I don't know. But I think if he had made that transition to an already established program, that he could help build upon the foundation that Deion set, and then possibly move on to, a startup, right? You got a fixer-upper rather, and then go from there, right? Because to me, I got the bigger problem. Well, why did it take Ed Reed calling out the university to deal with a mold issue on campus, right?
Yeah.
Social media was there 4 weeks ago before Ed Reed got out there and made these comments, right, about the facilities on campus. How come this wasn't no issue a month ago or last fall, right? And so that's where I'm like, we got to do better, because we on social media for everything else. We TikTok and for everything else. Why we got to wait till it's some hot topic that's trending and somebody that got fired for us to all of a sudden take a look at ourselves, right? And I heard Shaq, I was gonna give him $1 million. Well, you still can. Well, I want them to reinstate Ed Reed. So you're gonna hold your money back because Ed Reed is not the coach? Well, I mean, come on. So I agree with Buck. We just got.
And that's the crazy thing about bringing a name in. You get that pull. That's why I do kind of agree with Buck, where, like you say, once you get that fine dining, it's hard to go back to just getting fast food. But understand something, fine dining gonna cost you more. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
That's the difference.
That's where I think Bethune Cookman, like you said, I think that was a good analogy, went for the Hail Mary. We're gonna bring this dude in. He's got influence. He's got 2.5 million followers, right? Maybe we can get a reality show like Deion and right. So we're gonna bring him in and then see how it works out. So, like I said, shame on the university for not doing their due diligence to know, what they was getting in the process. But to move forward, I think we got an uphill climb, because now that the quote unquote genie is out the bottle, now Bethune Cookman got to do something. Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Just to end it, I honestly hope they could just sit down, come to resolution. Let's try to fix this. Okay. Ed wanted to be there at one point. Y'all wanted him there. Yeah. This probably isn't even over that big a thing. You know what I mean? Let's just come, like you say, Buck. Let's what's best for these student athletes. And to me, even if he doesn't have coaching experience, bringing in a guy like Ed Reed that's passionate. That really and understand this. This is the difference. I told Toddy this before the show. Like, Ed Reed don't have to do this. He's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference. This is not like just a young guy that wants a job and he never did nothing in his life. Ed Reed can coast. He don't have to, like to say, he ain't got to pay for a meal in the city of Baltimore. He can, be a Hall of Famer, do studio shows, whatever. So you feel like he truly does want this for the kids. A passionate guy like that, you would just hope. I really hope they could just come to an understanding and fix it. Down the line.
I hope so too. And I think, and honestly, like you said, what can they do to fix it? This is where, and I'm probably gonna get some pushback on this, but to be true to my core, this is where I always tell students, you have the voice. There is no need for faculty. There is no need for student support services, financial aid officers, and academic advisors or recruiters if you walk away. So if there are things that can be fixed, it's good to bring in a high name or, somebody with great followers. But if you start sitting in, I know what university you were talking about, because Roland Martin covered it very well. Where the students sat in was like, we want to talk to the campus leadership. Right? And so this is where, again, students have a voice as well, because once enrollment starts dropping, campuses will start changing, administrations, okay, what we got to do to get students, because students bring in funding.
Yeah.
Right.
They really do. And so this is not just a sports problem, though this is the hot topic, but if you look across the board, this is where I think students and parents got to start saying, hold on, if we're sending our sons and daughters to your institution, we're holding you accountable that they're not sleeping in no roach infested dorm room. That ain't happening.
Right.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So shout out to all those, you know, hopefully we can kind of rectify this, because like I said, I like what Deion did. I like the recognition, you know, even that was a little bit rocky, you know, but, you know, and whatever, we already covered that. But to me, overall, it was a great thing. And hopefully we can keep going to that. Shout out to the HBCU. Like I said, shout out Hillman. Shout out Mission College school days as well. That's a great, they got to show that scene with Ozzie Davis when he was the football coach.
That is great.
That is my job. But, and so I want to thank my panel today, Toddy. Again, guys, these are both men work in education with students, so they know they're working hard, you know, in levels of education, working with young people, doing the best. So it was great to have them on. Buck as well. Guys, keep checking us out. Channel 5, of course, you know where to find us at YouTube. Please, we'll take a subscribe, take a like, always, and a comment. Please let us know what you feel about this situation. You know, shout out. You come on, man. Appreciate the hats. All right, there we got the O State, we got the Channel 5. Of course, we see it in the background. Much love for that as well. Please, please, y'all know the rule, man. Please, always be blessed. Stay sharp. Thank you, fellas.
It's all
good. Thanks for having us.
As I lay me down to sleep, I can't breathe. Tell me why the blood leave. They just do it for the streets. They don't care about me. If you did, why retreat? Hard cold blood, accepting defeat. Always give up on a soul, thinking it was for the gold. Man, they both got me crying and praying for what I don't even know. The pulpit in the trash, talk about stupid off of the Cupid. That mess is on loose if I call it excuses, and I'm a